everybody, guess what? Victoria has released their eligibility requirements for the 190 visa and it is now open for applications. My name is Traci Chen and welcome back to my channel, My Great Australian Dream. I'm an Australian immigration lawyer and the principal lawyer at Mason Chen Law Group. So I'm going to talk about all the requirements today to be nominated for the 190 visa. There are also slightly different eligibility requirements for the 491 visa in Victoria, and I will talk about that in a separate video. Now, before I get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with people who need it. I've also dropped links below so you can directly access the Victoria website. So first of all, let's talk about the basic eligibility requirements. And always remember, for the 190 visa, you need to have an expression of interest. You create that on Skills Select. First of all, to be eligible to apply, you must be committed to live in Victoria. You must have completed an expression of interest on Skills Select. You must be under 45 years of age, have at least competent English, and a valid skills assessment on the 190 occupation list. Now, there's no specific occupation list for Victoria. You can use the federal list. I'll drop a link below so you can have a look at that very broad occupation list. So you can kind of say that they're open to inviting all occupations, but there's obviously certain sectors, occupations that they will be prioritizing, and I do think that plays a big part in your application. You need to have at least 65 points, but I'll talk a little bit about the points later. I think there's gonna be a huge focus on points this year. Last year and the year before, I think, look, if your application was outstanding, there's still a chance for you to be selected if you had somewhat lower points. So, 65, 70 points. But this year, I think it's gonna be competitive and you need to shoot for the highest that you can. Now, obviously for these applications, you'll need your passport, your English test, so that can be done with IELTS, PTE, which is one of the popular ones, TOEFL, and I think there's OET as well from memory. And you also need to have a valid skills assessment. Now, just remember, skills assessments do expire. So for example, Australian Computer Society expires after 2 years, VetAssess expires after 3 years. So you do need to make sure that your skills assessment has enough time left on it. So if you've only got 3 or 4 or even 6 months left on your skills assessment, I'd definitely be looking into applying for a new one now. Super important, because you just never know when they're going to invite you. And the worst thing is if they invite you and you're like, oh my gosh, my skills assessment has actually expired. You'll need your employment contract, your last 4 weeks of pay slips, your superannuation statement, and your position description. These 4 things will play a huge part in having a successful nomination and visa invitation as the last step. Now, as you know, the program is open now, and I think they'll continue to invite people until the 5th of May 2023. There's no indication of when they will invite people, it's just random. But last year they invited, on a Friday afternoon, and I wouldn't say it was consistently every 4 weeks, or every 2 weeks, or every week. I do think it was random, and there was periods where it was really dry. And they'll sometimes randomly receive invitations on a weekday as well. So you go ahead, you'll lodge an expression of interest, and then you'll lodge a registration of interest. The form seems easy, but there's actually a lot of work behind it, because they made it very clear. If the ROI or the EOI is incorrect, they will refuse the application at the nomination stage. So you want to check everything before you lodge it. You want to make sure that you have all the documentation ready, it's actually valid, and that it actually meets the requirements. And there's this whole new thing about the salary this year, and we took some time to actually understand it, and it's actually a lot more complicated than you think. I'll go through that very shortly. As you guys know, they've just released the allocations for this financial year, and for the 190 visa alone, Victoria has 9,000 seats, which is quite a lot. I don't remember the last time I saw this many, from memory anyway. So I think it's really exciting, and I'm really excited to see what actually happens, because last year it was highly competitive. I saw the trend of which one of my clients' applicants were actually invited. They were high standard, high level, high points, using their STEM skills, working in large reputable companies in Victoria. I saw that trend. And there was only 3,000 spots last year. This year it's triple. And absolutely makes sense, because the program is very different. One of the key things about this year is that you don't need to be working in your nominated occupation. So last year, if you're a mechanical engineer, you had to be working in your nominated occupation, or at least closely related. So for example, mechanical engineer, you could be working as an industrial engineer or even production engineer. I think those are the ones that fall in the same ANSCO group. But this year, there's no requirement for that. But you do have to be working in a skill level 1 to 3 job, which is great because it opens a lot of doors for a lot of people. And I'll go through some examples of that soon. So let's take this case study. There's a client who has a skills assessment as a mechanical engineer. They have 8 in each band for PTE, 26 years of age, has completed their NATI as well, completed their bachelor here in Australia, and working as a mechanical engineering technician. Now, mechanical engineer is something that requires a bachelor, and our client has successfully completed that degree and successfully also obtained the skills assessment in that. His points are excellent. However, he's not working in his nominated occupation because if you have a look at ANSCO, they're 2 completely different occupations. And in fact, his skills assessment, mechanical engineering, is a skill level 1 job, and his actual job as a mechanical engineering technician is a skill level 2 job. So he's not working in his nominated occupation. If you look at the new Victoria requirements, you can actually still apply. You just have to be working in a skill level 1 to 3 job. And he's actually working as a mechanical engineering technician, which is a skill level 2 job. So he still meets the requirements. It doesn't mean you can claim the work experience from the expression of interest perspective, but you are eligible to apply for state nomination. And I think that's where a lot of people get confused. You can't claim the work experience if it's not closely related, but you can apply, and that's the most important thing. Also have another client who's got a skills assessment as an accountant, but working in the bank as an analyst. Now you'd have to look at the position description and see which one it actually matches on the ANSCO occupation list to determine if it's a skill level 1 to 3 job and whether you can actually apply. Now, if you look at the registration of interest form, those are the key things that they'll be asking for. But you need to have everything ready. You know, your position description, your employment contract, your pay slips, and make sure it ticks all the boxes. You need to also be very careful with the salary that you actually enter. I've reviewed a bunch of pay slips, and yeah, there's some that are straightforward. If you're on a full-time salary, full-time package, everything's already there. It is the gross salary, so do remember that. But then there's some people who have casual rates, who have overtime rates, who have more than one rate on their payslip. There's also people who work more than one job. For example, it's very popular for nurses to be working for more than one agency or employer. In that case, you've got to be very careful of what you put for the salary, because the salary calculator, they explain exactly what you need to be putting there. And so to be honest, us, a bunch of lawyers, we spent all our time figuring out this salary earnings thing because I think it's going to play a huge part, and I really think it can result in refusals if it's not put in properly. It's really surprising to see that people, I was looking at this payslip yesterday where one of my junior lawyers was like, hey, I really need help with this. And I looked at the payslip and I was like, oh my gosh, look, maths is not my forte. I know I'm Asian, but you know, I don't think maths is my forte. And the client was on a casual contract and they had 4 different rates. So they had the base rate, then they had the nighttime rate, then they had the weekend rate, and I think they had the nighttime weekend rate. So in that case, which one do you put? So it can actually be very, very confusing. And again, it says there, if it doesn't add up, I think it says in the notes, if it doesn't add up or something like that, then it can get refused. Anyways, clearly below it says that if you are in the following occupation groups, your application will be prioritized. So that's healthcare and social services, those who are working in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, those who are working in advanced manufacturing, digital and innovation economy. I actually have a lot of clients that are working in like circular economy, innovation economy. I think that's great. I think if you're working those sectors, it's actually awesome. And then also looks like teachers are going to be prioritized. So early childhood, secondary school, and special needs teachers, which is something I have been harping on about for a very long time. A lot of my clients are like, you know, what should I study? What's going to increase my chances? If you look at Australia as a whole, there's a huge focus on education. There's a huge focus on healthcare. Australia also has a huge focus on advanced manufacturing. They just want to be like a manufacturing hub. They want to bring more innovation to Australia. They want to innovate here in Australia, which is why, you know, the GTI program, the Global Talent Visa, there's been a huge focus on that for the last few years. So they want to bring those people to Australia. Anyways, so if you submit your application, you tick all those boxes and you have high points. Now, what do I mean by high points? I don't think there's anything to define this. And look, again, this program, we don't know how it's going to go because it's completely different to the last couple of years. And there's so many more seats compared to the last couple of years. Last year, I was telling my clients, yeah, top English, NATI, you know, premium age, all of that stuff. And also find the job in the target sector. Had a client who started on with us and I told them exactly what they needed to do. And then he went around, looked for a job, found that job, and he was invited like a month after because we helped him understand exactly what was required. So in this situation, it's still the same. Like, don't get complacent in that sense. They've obviously already said what is important here. They've mentioned what the priority sectors are, what will increase your chances. So absolutely go for it. Don't just be, if you've got, you know, competent English, try to aim for higher because that's what's going to increase your chances. You know, again, there's lots of seats this year, so it'd be really interesting. So you have more chances to fight for it. So go for it, I would say. Also, you can't submit 2 ROIs, you can only submit 1. So if you want to apply for 491, then just apply for 49. If you want to apply for 190, then just apply for 190. You can't actually submit both, so, you know, it doesn't allow you, the function doesn't allow you anyway, so that's very clear. So just to summarize the key requirements, the Victoria program for state nomination for the 190 visa is now open. You need to have a expression of interest completed on Skill Select, and then you need to complete your registration of interest on the Live in Melbourne portal. This is very different to other states because some states actually don't even have a registration of interest / ROI process. So those are the 2 things you need to actually have your application reviewed and selected, essentially. You need to have high points. I think salary is also going to play a part. Probably if you are earning more money, there's probably high chances for you to be invited because it's the indication of a lot of things. Also, I think points are going to play a part. So if you're the right age, have received superior English or at least proficient English, have completed all the extra things that can add points to the application, which includes NATI, professional year, you have 85 points, 90 points, 95 points, 100 points. That's what's going to increase your chances of getting an invitation. And then what's going to really bring it home is probably having an occupation in one of the priority sectors, which as just previously mentioned. Now, a lot of people ask if they can apply from another state. The answer is no. They're only going to nominate people who are living in Victoria. They are inviting offshore applicants, so people who are living outside of Australia. I will do a separate video for offshore applicants because obviously they're going to look at this very differently. So I'll discuss that in the next video. 491 visa, similar, but also very different, also inviting offshore. But yeah, if you want to apply for Victoria and you're living in Australia, then you need to be living in Victoria. Anyway, I hope that video was helpful. Please drop a comment below with any other questions that you have. I will try my best to get to them. As you guys know, I'm the principal lawyer at Mason Chen Law Group. If you guys are looking for assistance for your visa application, we do all different types of visas. So skilled visas, employer visas, tourist visas, you name it. Anything immigration related we do. Our contact details are below. I also have mini courses that are available. Link is below. A lot of my mini courses are actually free, but yeah, feel free to check it out below. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys in the next video.